what we're going to do is make a sunflower just like that, and then we can stick it on all of these letters. So I'm just going to show everyone how to do that. Okay, so I'm starting with 4-ply cotton yarn, and I'm just using a dark brown color, and then my hook is a 1.75. So there we go, that's my hook here, 1.75 millimeter hook. Okay, and now I'm going to start crocheting the center of my sunflower. So I'm going to make a magic ring like this, and then I'm going to insert my hook underneath. I'm going to catch it over the top here, and then I'll pull it in like that. Then I will put my hook underneath, pull it through, making sure the top of my hook is facing down, and here we have a magic ring. So that's how you make a magic ring. Okay, next we're going to make single crochets. So in order to make a single crochet, all you need to do is insert the hook into this magic ring that we've just made, and then pull the yarn through. Now we have 2 loops on the hook. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull the yarn through both these loops. And that there is a single crochet. Alright, so let's do another one. We're going to make 5 of these. So put the hook through the magic circle, pull the yarn through. Now we have 2 loops on the hook, and we're going to pull the yarn through both loops. There we go, that's our second single crochet. Okay, let's do another 3. So this is the third one, pulling it through, pulling yarn through. Number 3, number 4, hook through the circle, pulling the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and pulling the yarn through 2 loops. That's number 4, and last one, pulling the yarn through and yarn through both loops. So now we have just crocheted 5 single crochet stitches here. Then we pull the yarn, so we can see with our magic ring. Hello! With our magic ring, we're going to pull the yarn tail now. So just pull that. And the reason we pull that is so we can make a closed circle here. And now this is a little bit tricky if you're not used to crocheting, because what we need to do is we need to connect this stitch to this first stitch that we made. And in order to do that, especially if we're doing if we're not crocheting in a spiral, if we're making a slip stitch and then chaining 1 to start the next round, which is the easier way to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert the hook into this first stitch right here. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky and you might need to wiggle the hook a little bit, but as you can see, I've got the hook now through that first stitch. Remember, you've got the front and back loops of that stitch, so that's what I've put it through right there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pull the yarn through that stitch and into that other loop that's on the hook. And that is what we call a slip stitch. Okay, so now we have just made a slip stitch and we have closed the circle, and we call this the first round. So we finished the first round now, and that first round contained 5 single crochet stitches. The next round, before we start any round, if we're doing this version, which is the easier version, and I recommend this when you start out. So we're not crocheting in a spiral, we've just made a slip stitch, and now we are going to chain 1 to start the next round. Hello! So we're going to, in order to chain, we're just going to pull the yarn through the loop that was on the hook. And now we have just chained 1. And we are now ready to begin the second round. Now the second round, in order to make this circle bigger, usually what happens is you need to do 2 single crochets in every stitch that you've made, and we call that an increase. So if you make 2 single crochets in one stitch, it's called an increase. So let's do that now. So since I've got 5 single crochet stitches in the first round, I'm going to end up in the second round with 10 single crochet stitches because I'm going to do 2 single crochet stitches in each stitch. So let's start with the first one. Okay, so we are going into that first stitch. As you can hopefully see, we are going to pull the yarn through. Now we have 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to pull the yarn through both loops. So that's 1 single crochet stitch. But remember I said we're going to make 2 in every stitch of the previous round. So that was only 1. Now let's insert our hook back into the same stitch and pull our yarn through and pull the yarn through once more. So we have just now made an increase. So there we go. I see your messages, guys. That's awesome. All right, so now we're going to make another increase. And this is the second stitch right here. I hope you can see it. And we're going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch. So we're going to, feel free to join along if you've just started. We're making a sunflower right here, and then we're going to sew it onto this letter E, and we'll make another one and sew it onto this letter A here. All right, so our second increase in the second stitch. Here's our first single crochet stitch. Let's insert our hook back in the same stitch, pull our yarn through, and there we have another increase. So we can see we've got 2 single crochet stitches here, and we've got another 2 single crochet stitches here. All right, we need to do this another 3 times. So 3 more increases is what we're aiming for. So here we are. We've just gone into the third stitch here. We're going to pull the yarn through. That's first single crochet stitch, and now we're going in the same stitch of that round, pulling our yarn through and pulling the yarn through again. So now we have 1, 2, 3 increases. Let's do number 4 increase. Right here, here's our 4th stitch in round 1. We're going to pull the yarn through, 1. We're going to do another one in that same stitch. Here's number 2. There we have it. And now we have 4 increases. And we are now ready for the last one. So here's our final 5th stitch right here, and we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches inside this stitch here. There we go. So now we have just made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 increases. Increases means 2 single crochet stitches in the same stitch of the previous round. So I hope that makes sense. And now to end this round, so this is our round 2, what we want to do is make a slip stitch in the very first stitch that we made of that second round. So let's just find it here. Here it is. So let's put our hook through like so. And to make a slip stitch, you're going to pull the yarn. Now remember, to make that single crochet stitch, you will pull the yarn through both those loops, but we are making a slip stitch. So we're not pulling the yarn through again. What we're doing is, see this first loop? We're going to pull that inside our second loop. So there we go. We have now made our second round, and this is actually the end of the center part for our sunflower. So what I will do right now is cut the yarn, and there we go. Here's our centerpiece right here. Okay, now this is the tricky part. We're going to make the sunflower petals, and we'll do that just using a nice yellow yarn. All right, so I have to hopefully remember how to do this as well, or we can learn as we go along. Hello, you're walking into a sunflower tutorial. Okay, so what we are now going to do, so I've just cut the yarn, I fastened that off, and actually, so I usually wouldn't cut this, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I will. That's just the tail piece that we made using the center of the magic ring. but we'll end up sewing around that anyway, so it shouldn't come unloose. All right, so now I'm going to enter my hook into that first stitch of the next round, right there. Then we are going to grab our yellow yarn in preparation to make these petals and leave a little bit of a tail here. So I've got maybe about, let's say that's 5 centimeters, and I'm going to pull the yarn through, and this is how we attach the yarn. So I've just pulled the yarn through now here. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2. So in order to chain, all you do is pull the yarn through like so. So that's 1 chain, and we're going to do it again. Hello. 1, and this is our second one here. 1, 2. Okay, now in the same stitch, as you can see here, we are going to do something called a double crochet stitch. Now, before I show you the double crochet, it might be easier to learn. So we've done a single crochet, but now we should go a step up from that, which is a half double crochet. So in order to do a half double crochet, which you won't do here, I'm just showing you for ease of just for ease before we go into the double crochet. So we're going to wrap this yarn around the hook. Did you see how I did that? We'll wrap the yarn around the hook. We're going to insert our hook into the same stitch. We're going to pull the yarn through. And for a half double crochet, what you do, see how I've got 3 loops on the hook? We're actually going to pull the yarn through all 3 loops. So if I do that, and you just have to be careful with how the hook is placed. You want this hook section pointed down as you pull it through. And you can do that nice and slowly. So that right there is a half double crochet. Now I'll leave it as a half double crochet for this one here, but for the rest of them we'll do a double crochet, and we can learn how to do that soon. Now what we're going to do is chain 2. 1, 2. Okay, so now we've chained 2. Now this next part is the tricky part if you've never done this before, and it is called a picot stitch. And so what you do is, now you might not be able to see it, but there are 2 loops right here. So 1, 2, and we're going to put our hook through both of those loops. It's a little bit tricky. It shouldn't be that tricky though if you've done the half double crochet correctly. And now that we've got our hook through those 2 side loops, we're going to pull the yarn through both of those. There we go. And now we have 2 loops on the hook, and we're going to slip stitch that first loop into the second loop on the stitch. There we go. Okay, so now we have just made a picot stitch. Excellent. Okay, now what we're going to do is another half double crochet in the same stitch. So half double crochet, you wrap the yarn first. Then you insert it into the same hook, because we're working in the same hook. You'll pull the yarn through, and for a half double crochet, you're going to pull that yarn through all 3 loops. There we go. So that's another half double crochet. And to finish this off, all we are going to do is put our hook into the next stitch right there. Then we will grab the yarn and make a slip stitch. So we'll just directly insert that into the second loop. And now we have just made our first petal. Cool. Another 10 to go. Okay, let's do it again. So we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. We're going to do this time not a half double crochet, we're going to do a double crochet. So let's see the difference. We're going to wrap the yarn once, just as we did for a half double crochet. We're going to insert it into that same hook, pull the yarn through. We still have 3 loops on the hook, but this time for a double crochet, instead of pulling the yarn through all 3 loops, what we're going to do is pull the yarn through only 2 of those loops. There you go. So now you have 2 loops left on the hook, and we're going to pull the yarn again through 2 of those loops. So we just did a double crochet. From here, we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to make a picot stitch again. So as you can see, I hope you can you see these 2 loops right on the side here? That's where we insert the hook to make our picot stitch. We're going to pull the yarn through, and we're going to make a slip stitch into this second loop. Sometimes what I like to do is slightly turn my wrist and the hook around, face it upward, so that I can see that loop coming through. Sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. From here, we're going to do another double crochet. So wrap the yarn, insert our hook, pull through. Remember, for half double crochet, we pull the yarn through all 3 loops, but for a double crochet, we pull the yarn through 2 loops first, and then again through the remaining 2 loops. And there we go. Now, to finish this off, this final petal, we are going to go and insert our hook into the next stitch and make a slip stitch. And now we have 2 petals. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit faster now and make the next couple. So chain 2, we're going to do a double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, picot stitch here. Then we are going to do another double crochet, 1, 2, and we are going to slip stitch in the next stitch. Okay, that's number 3. Let's do it again. Chain 2, double crochet in the same stitch, 2 chains, a picot stitch. See how I twist a little bit just to get that slip stitch in, and then I'll do another double crochet. Make sure you always have good tension in your left hand if you're a right hand crocheter, and then the opposite if you're a left hand crocheter. And make a slip stitch in the next stitch to finish off that petal. Let's do it again. 1, 2. We will make a half double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2. Chain 2. Picot stitch. I actually don't know if it's pronounced Pico or Pico. It's P-I-C-O-T. I'm not sure. Now we've just messed that one up. We can fix it though. 1, 2. Hello, welcome. I'm just giving a quick tutorial here. Well, maybe not quick, but we're trying. And now we're going to make a double crochet. There we go, and a slip stitch in the next stitch. All right, how many petals do we have now? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 to go. Yes, hello, I see you. Okay, let's do another one. 1, 2 chains, half double crochet in the same stitch, chain 2. If you can hear the piano in the background, that is my brother playing piano. It's very good. Okay, and no chaining here. We just do another double crochet here, slip stitch in the very next stitch. There we go. Chain 2. We are almost finished. Double crochet, chain 2, picot stitch, twist a little bit to get that slip stitch in. Oh, thank you. I'll let him know you said so. He plays by ear, so right now he's playing some Christmas songs. And here we go. Another double crochet and slip stitch in the next stitch. We are almost finished with the petals. Chain 2, double crochet. There we go. Chain 2, make a picot stitch. Make sure we get the loop on the hook. Another double crochet in the same stitch. and slip stitch in the next stitch. I think we're almost done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I actually think this will be the last one. We might have missed a stitch somewhere over here, but that's okay. It's not obvious. We're going to do a double crochet, then chain 2, then we are going to make another, what do you call this, picot stitch. There we go. Wrap that, double crochet, 1, 2, and now we will, so this was our slip stitch right here, so what we're going to do is go in the very first stitch space, so you can see it's a little bit hard to get into, but that in there was the stitch space that we started in. And what we're going to do to connect this together, we're going to pull the yarn through and make a slip stitch right here. So now we have done that, and to finish this off, we're just going to pull the yarn through, then we are going to cut. Actually, before I make a wrong cut, oh, actually, okay, something that I did incorrectly, but it doesn't matter, is I wanted to keep a long tail of the dark brown yarn, but I didn't do that. I just cut it off. So what I'll do is I'll cut this yarn. It will be fine. It just means a little bit of an added step. Alright, so I'm going to grab my brown yarn. I'm going to cut a little bit. I've just got a long string of brown yarn here. And now I'm going to use a needle. Now, this needle, I have poked myself so many times. It's terrible. You might even see it in some of my tutorial videos where it accidentally goes into my skin and I pull back, and then later on I have a little bit of a bloody finger in the tutorial, which is terrible. It really does hurt when you poke yourself with a needle, and I never mean to, it's just so sharp. Anyways, so what I'm gonna do is put this yarn through the eye of the needle, like so. And there we have our long string. Now, if you had kept a long piece of this brown yarn, you wouldn't need an individual piece of string. You'd just have it directly from here. Now, what I should have done beforehand, I wonder if I could still do it, is I want to weave these ends into my sunflower to hide it. Actually, I might do that now before we move on, just so I've hidden it nicely and it's not going to worry me when I'm sewing it onto my letter. So here, I've got my needle. Do you see how I weaved it into the back end of my sunflower? So this is the front, this is the back. And now what I'm going to do is, I like to twist my yarn sometimes because it makes it easier to put it through a small eye of the needle. As you can see. Let's hope I can get that. Nope, terrible. Okay, let's try it again. You know, this is actually the part, I never show this during a tutorial video because it takes so long for me just to get the yarn through the eye of a needle. I always twist it. Some people use like a piece of small paper to get it through, but if I'm lucky enough, I'll get it through. And you might want to use pliers as well to pull that, because sometimes the tension can be quite tough. So if I pull that, there we go. And see this little bit of leftover yarn? We can actually cut this because it's already weaved through, so it shouldn't pose us problems later on. There we go. All right, let's do the same for this yarn tail here. So what I'll do, since I'm in the back end, is I'm going to weave through a couple of these ends here as much as possible. Weave as much as I can. Then my favorite part, get this through the eye of the needle. There we go. Don't pull the yarn all the way through because then you'll find it very difficult to pull this through. Keep it like about at the tip. And then there we go. So, hold on, I think my brother is calling me. Give me a second. One sec. Yeah? I'm gonna go to Walmart. Can you give me 10 minutes? I'm just finishing a tutorial. Okay, I'm back. Apparently we're going to Walmart. Alright, so here we have a sunflower. Oh, I should probably weave. Actually, we don't need to weave this brown part in since I cut it. Now let's put this brown thread or cotton yarn through the eye of the needle. Wow, I actually did that pretty quickly. Now we're going to do it like this C. We've made the letter C. If you want to make the letter C, I have a tutorial now available. Letters E and A are also available if you wanted to make that. I'm trying to get through the entire alphabet. Bear with me, we'll get there. But this is just like a little bit of a dainty sort of extra that you can add to your letter just to make it really cute. And then you can put your own keychain, or you can actually make a yarn keychain by just inserting your hook here and chaining up and then slip stitching it back in, and then you've got a yarn chain. It kind of looks like this actually. You see, this is a yarn chain here. And then to put it on something, you put it around, and then this will come through. You put this all the way through, and then you pull it up, and then you've got yourself a nice yarn chain. Again, SpongeBob tutorial is also available on my channel, so go check that out if you haven't already. Okay, let us finish off this sunflower before I have to go. So I think let's put it on the top corner will be nice. Let's put it over here. What I will do is I'm going to go through the back here. Now it doesn't really matter where you insert your needle because you're going to hide this in the end anyway, but I need to have a place to start. So what I'll do is find the edge anywhere along the edge of that brown and pull my needle up, give myself a little bit of a tail here. Don't pull it all the way through because you'll use this at the end to tie a knot. And now what we're going to do, see, we've pulled this through, we're going to go directly to the side. So you can go this way, you can go this way, it doesn't really matter. But see, I've got my hook here, my needle here, and I'm just going to pull it all the way through here. Now you don't want to go too far out because you don't want this to be visible. And when I say visible, I mean the brown yarn. So for example, if I went all the way out here, when I tried to sew this sunflower on, you would see it visibly right here, and so it's not the prettiest. So now I'm going to insert my hook here. I keep saying hook, I mean needle. Pull it. Now I'm going to see, I'm going right across the edge to the next section, and I'm just putting it slightly on a diagonal like so. Pull it through. Again, you might want to use pliers if you need to. I'm gonna pull needle through again like so. We're almost halfway. Needle in and out. This time I will need pliers. There we go. Sometimes it can really be tough depending on the type of needle you use. I just grabbed a needle from my local Kmart in Australia. So I have really no preference as long as it's small and it's sharp and it can get in the very small ends. You can also use other needles like this. This is a thicker needle, but you'll find it more difficult to get in the smaller sections. Like for example, this doesn't really fit. I mean, it does fit, but it's a lot more difficult because it's just thick. That's why I like this smaller needle. Okay. Needle through again. So it basically we're just going up and down the entire way, which is just nice. We're almost at the beginning actually. Just pulling that nice and tightly and going back to the beginning. Yes, actually, do we have J? We might already have J on the tutorial. If not, I will get to it. I know we've done 7 letters so far. Oh dear. There we go. I made a mistake there, but just started crocheting and I have a lot of trouble getting into it. What would you recommend for a beginner to make? Ooh, well, I guess I'll go from my experience. I actually made a tulip, or a tulip. I don't know how you pronounce that. But it's nice and easy because you're using the single crochet stitch. Once you master that single crochet stitch, you'll find other stitches a lot easier. So anything that you can use the single crochet stitch in, like a tulip or oh, what else? Just trying to think of things I've made. You wouldn't want to make something like this. I mean, you could, because it is single crochet stitches mostly, but like a head, for example, if you understand how to make a head, that will be really, really nice. And then you will be able to make an arm nice and easy. A body will be reasonable. You're just adding a little bit of an extra layer there, because you're doing a different technique, which is like, for example, hair, you're chaining a lot, but then you're making single crochet stitches as you go down the hair strand. So little things like that. Amigurumi stuff, simple amigurumi is probably what I would start out with, and that's just because it's fun. It's usually not too difficult. It usually consists of a lot of single crochet stitches, and you end up with something really nice at the end, and you don't have to spend hours upon hours, days upon days on that same project. Like, for example, a granny square. I know that was in trend for a very long time and probably still is. Do you know, I've actually never made one in my entire life, and I've been crocheting now for a year. So yeah, amigurumi is probably what I'd recommend to start out with, something with single crochet stitches, something that says beginner friendly. My tutorials are, I would probably say intermediate level, but you can definitely start out. If you know the basics of crochet, then my tutorials aren't too difficult. But if you're very, very fresh and you don't know how to crochet certain types of stitches, then you might find it difficult. Okay, so I didn't explain this, but all I've done is I've weaved all around the edging of this brown. I'm keeping the colors consistent. You can't see the brown underneath because I've kept it very close to that center, so that's nice. And then I've put the needle through until the back, and I've put it through the same stitch as you can see here. No problem. And then I have tied a double knot, and I want to do that really nicely. And the beauty of it is, because it's in the same stitch, I can now cut my yarn because I've already made a knot, and I can just push this into my piece where it is no longer visible. You can use a hook, you can use the back end of a needle to kind of wipe it away, and there we go. Now we have the letter E with a cute little sunflower on the top. So that is how you add a little bit of something to your alphabet letter. I hope that helps. I actually have to go now, guys, but maybe another time we can show you how to do some sewing. I know a lot of crocheters hate sewing, but it's something that you've got to get used to if you like to make dolls and little things like that. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.